what we can do as the Interparliamentary Union to strengthen democracy, to promote human rights, to ensure that humanitarian law is respected.
Hello and welcome viewers, I'm Thea and you're watching Gulf Today on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the headlines this hour. Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem has declared the group has the right to respond to Israel and will determine the timing for it. This comes after its top military chief Haitham Ali Tatabai was killed in an Israeli strike in Beirut. The Lebanese army has boosted its presence along the border with Israel, deploying nearly 10,000 troops and closing 11 smuggling points. Soldiers are tackling unexploded ordnance and reclaiming areas formerly dominated by Hezbollah. The United Nations has condemned the killing of 2 Palestinian men in Jenin, calling it an apparent summary execution. This comes after Israeli forces shot men who appeared to surrender while authorities are investigating the incident. According to reports, an Israeli raid has killed 13 people in southern Syria. Damascus has, of course, condemned the strike and branded it a criminal attack, while Israel has stated that 6 of its troops were wounded by fire during the raid. Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem has welcomed Pope Leo XIV's upcoming visit to Lebanon. He has sent a letter to the pontiff and hopes the trip promotes peace and ends Israeli aggression, as he's termed it. According to reports, 2 oil tankers have caught fire in the Black Sea off the coast of Turkey. Explosions have hit the Gambia-flagged Kairos and Virat, but all 45 crew members have now been safely evacuated. US President Donald Trump has announced plans to cancel most of former President Joe Biden's executive orders. He's claimed that an auto pen was used improperly by Biden, who did not personally sign the documents. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has announced the resignation of his chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, following an anti-corruption raid. He's called for national unity, warning that the country risks losing itself if it is divided. Well, viewers, those are the headlines and our top focus. Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem has stated that the group reserves the right to respond to Israel and will decide upon the timing of its response. His statement comes after the assassination of their top military chief, Haitham Ali Tatabai, in an Israeli strike that took place last week in the southern suburbs of Beirut. In a televised address, he's now described the strike as a blatant aggression, indicating that Hezbollah could spark a new war with Israel, if possible, but has not provided any specifics on the further role of the outfit. He's further called on Lebanon to prepare strategies that could rely on both the Lebanese army and civilian resources to confront Israel. Now, according to reports, the Hezbollah chief, Tatabai, was targeted while meeting with 4 aides to plan future actions. The group is, of course, looking at regrouping, especially after most of its top leadership was killed in Israeli strikes last year, following which we've seen the ceasefire agreement in November 2024. Not much has come out of that as well. But now Hezbollah maintains that it will not disarm as long as Israel carries out strikes and stations troops in southern Lebanon. In response, Israeli military officials have criticized the Lebanese army for failing to control Hezbollah's arsenal, stating that the group continues to operate covertly and strengthen its weapons. Despite, as I mentioned earlier, the November 2024 ceasefire, Israel has conducted near-daily strikes in southern Lebanon, and attacks have been taking place on Beirut intermittently, although the capital has remained unhit for months prior to last week's assassination. With us on the broadcast is Professor Rohan Gunaratne, International Affairs expert, joining us from Singapore. Thank you so much, sir, for taking our time. Speaking to us on NewsX World, we've been tracking what's been taking place in Lebanon for quite a while now. Hezbollah, of course, coming out and putting this statement. But what the IDF has basically tried to achieve here, as many analysts are pointing out, is that it is trying to prevent the Hezbollah from regrouping. Interesting statement by the Hezbollah leader, Naim Qasim, who has called on the Lebanese army and the civilian resources to come together to fight Israel. While Lebanon does have its gripes with the Israelis that continue to occupy territory in southern Lebanon, there's also a lot of pressure from the United States of America upon the Lebanese government to ensure the disarmament of Hezbollah, which is quite the political force as well in the country. How do you think the Lebanese government will now navigate through all of this?
Yeah, what we have seen is that Israel mounted a very decisive attack to eliminate the chief of staff of the Lebanese Hezbollah 5 days ago. And what we have seen is that particular attack has been very decisive because the Lebanese Hezbollah is now reviving, it is arming, it is regrouping, and it's planning to mount attacks because it continues to receive support from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Iran's intelligence service. And the Lebanese military, although it has received significant US assistance, is unable to disarm Hezbollah because Hezbollah is still a very powerful organization both in Lebanon and overseas. So Israel's course of action is to decapitate the leadership and to decimate the rank and file. And it is very likely after Naim Qasim's threat that Hezbollah has the right to respond after his chief of staff was killed, that Israel will also eliminate him. Lebanese Hezbollah has no more chances of survival and revival as long as IDF continues to attack. And considering the attacks that Lebanese Hezbollah has conducted against US forces and the French forces from 1983 onwards, and of course attacks against Israel, this group should be dismantled because there is no security and stability in the region with a group like the Lebanese Hezbollah. So I believe the international community should support Lebanon to rebuild its military forces and to dismantle the Hezbollah organization.
All right, so requesting you to stay on with us as we're tracking further updates as far as Lebanon is concerned. We're now learning that the Lebanese army has been stepping up its presence along the border with Israel in areas that were once strongholds of Hezbollah. Now, the region south of the Litani River had been off limits to both the National Army and the UN peacekeepers for years. Since last year's ceasefire, Lebanese troop numbers have risen to nearly 10,000, and the army has closed almost 11 crossing points that were earlier used for smuggling. In addition to boosting troops, the army is also working to clear large amounts of unexploded weapons scattered across the area. Recently, local and international journalists were taken on a tour to see the deployment, showcasing troops in locations where Hezbollah had previously maintained a heavy military presence. Meanwhile, Israel has warned in recent weeks that Hezbollah is working to rebuild its capabilities in southern Lebanon. However, the Lebanese army commander has described the current deployment as crucial during this period, stressing that they're doing so to secure their border and ensure regional stability. Still with us on the broadcast is Professor Rohan Gunaratne. Interesting development coming in the Lebanese army as well, now taking over strongholds that once were controlled by the Hezbollah, and we've been seeing attempts by the group to in fact once again come together and bring about its cadres together and regroup. But what's also interesting is that in the neighborhood, we've seen a major change take place since the ceasefire last year. I'm referring to not just the 12-day war between Israel and Iran that had in fact ended up ensuring that Iran used a lot of its weapons stockpile, but also the fact that the regime in Syria had changed. Bashar al-Assad was removed from power, and now al-Sharaa has taken over, who's of course trying to mend Syria's ties with the West, the US in particular. Considering all of this, to what extent could the Hezbollah's quest to regroup be dented?
Certainly, the international community should work very hard to make sure that this group is completely eliminated. But unfortunately, this group has significant support among the Shia community in Lebanon. But with a group like the Lebanese Hezbollah, Lebanon will never prosper. It will always remain a poor country, a country that is struggling, a country where there is no security and stability. And of course, the Lebanese Hezbollah is not only a domestic organization, it's an international terrorist organization, and that is why it is so important for regional actors, not only the United States and Israel, but other countries in Europe, in Asia, in the Middle East, come together to ensure that this group will never revive. This group introduced suicide terrorism to the world in 1983 by bombing the US Marine barracks and the French paratrooper headquarters. It has conducted some of the most despicable terrorist attacks. It has done many hostage takings, and it has continued to provide training and weapons to Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and other groups in Gaza. It has continued to provide assistance and training to Ansarullah of the Houthi movement in Yemen. And of course, it maintained a very significant presence in Syria during Bashar al-Assad's regime. Now that the neck of this group has been strangled and many of its operational and penultimate leaders has been killed, I believe that more work is needed to ensure that this group does not become a surging threat to the region and beyond.
Indeed, sir. Requesting you to stay on with us as we're tracking some further crucial developments. We're now learning that the United Nations has stated that the killing of 2 Palestinian men in Jenin in the West Bank by Israeli forces appears to be a summary execution. Footage shows the men surrendering, lifting their shirts and lying on the ground before being shot. The Israeli military and police stated that they are investigating, claiming that the men were affiliated with a terror network. Palestinian group Islamic Jihad has stated that one was a commander and the other a fighter. The UN has condemned the killings, calling them brazen and a violation of human rights, while Israel's National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir has publicly supported the forces, calling it justified. Rights groups and the Palestinian Authority labeled what's taken place as a heinous extrajudicial killing and a possible war crime amidst ongoing Israeli raids in northern West Bank. Still with us on the broadcast is Professor Rohan Gunaratne. This is not the only case. We've also seen some rather sensitive cases come to light as far as the West Bank is concerned. We've now seen relative peace and calm in Gaza ever since the Trump's 21-point peace plan, the first phase of which was implemented, and the UNSC then accepted the broader resolution as well. This sort of unrest that we're seeing, these actions by the Israeli military as well that we're seeing, these summary executions as the United Nations has pointed out, could we then expect the West Bank to now turn volatile?
Yeah, the threat that was in Gaza has now expanded to West Bank, and that is why Israel has mounted a series of operations in West Bank that the Israelis call Judea and Samaria. So what is important is to investigate this attack in greater detail, because there are conflict conflicting information. Some are saying that even the video that you referred to was edited. Some are saying that they were members of a terrorist group. Whatever it may be, if two people surrendered, certainly they should not have been killed, because they would have been more valuable if they were alive, even from intelligence perspective to IDF. So what is important is to investigate this attack and to ensure that violence does not escalate in West Bank, because that will create a nightmare for Israel and also for the negotiators and the peacemakers. So I personally believe that it is important to it is so important to ensure that there is security and stability in the West Bank, so that peace can be finally achieved in this region.
Absolutely, sir. With that, Professor Gururatna, I'd like to thank you for taking out time, of course, sharing your insights with us on NewsX World today. On that note, viewers, we're shifting focus to further developments, this time in Syria. We're now learning that in southern Syria, 13 people have been killed in an Israeli raid, with Damascus now accusing Israel of a criminal attack in a village. Israel has stated its troops came under fire during an operation to arrest militants. Now, according to the Israeli army, military fire during the raid in the village of Jenin left 6 soldiers wounded, out of which 3 are currently in a severe condition. The Israeli military has stated that its troops had launched an operation to detain suspects belonging to Jamaat Islamiyah, which is a Lebanese Sunni Islamist group which fired rockets at Israel from Lebanon during the Gaza war, accusing them of involvement in quote-unquote terror plots. The IDF has also described the raid as part of routine operations in the area in recent months. With us on the broadcast is Major General A.K. Sivas, geostrategic expert, joining us from New Delhi. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us. Israel, of course, apart from Lebanon and West Bank, it's now also carrying out operations in southern Syria. 13 people have been killed in this raid. The IDF claims that it's lost 6 of its soldiers. What do you make at the outset of this particular action in southern Syria? We've seen, with the ouster of Bashar al-Assad and al-Sharana coming to power, there's been an outreach by the West as well to sort of normalize ties with Syria. In context of that, how do you view the Israeli action?
Yeah, see, 2, 3 issues stand out. One is, as far as Israel is concerned, Israel has taken a Golan Heights, which overlooks Syria, and thereafter, when Assad government fell, that is the time they have gone slightly toward the north and made a buffer zone. They always felt that there are certain militant groups which are operating from Syria, and they are trying to now dislodge or trying to create problem in Golan Heights. Now, what has happened is, in this case, that it is known phenomena that Jamaat Ismailiyah group, which is the Lebanese Sunni militant group, is the one which was also supporting the Hezbollah from Lebanon when they were fighting against Israel. So naturally, as far as Israel is concerned, it has a concrete information that there are certain villages where Jamia Ismailia is still very, very operative, and they wanted to strike on that. And that is how they have basically strike on the basic center of this Jamia Ismailia, and where more than about 10 people have been killed, precisely about 13. But that there is the other side of the story where the Syria is claiming that those who are killed are civilians, and they have nothing to do with the militancy. The United Nations has also condemned that. This will be always there. There will be a counter, version given by the Syria. But what is the fact? The fact is, remember one thing, that whether it is Hezbollah or Houthi rebel or Hamas, they were all proxies of Iran, and the Iran was basically supplying them weapons and financial aid and all. And this weapon route to Hezbollah was basically from Iran to Iraq and then to Syria and then to Lebanon. After the Syria has now Assad government has fallen down, Ahmed al-Sara has taken over. He himself was earlier a militant. Now there is a stoppage in the sense because it is under influence of US. That route has been blocked now. There is no doubt the route of coming from Iran to Iraq to Syria to Lebanon, where the number of weapons used to come, that is blocked. But there are pockets of some militant group which are still operating in Sahara, which are not in the interest of Israel, and that's how the Israelis attacking them. And these basically a Lebanese Sunni militant group, Jamia Ismailia, is a very deadly terrorist group. And I feel Israel will always strike wherever they find their national interest is being compromised, wherever they find the militant, because they have made up their mind they will clean Gaza. There is no doubt that though the 20-piece plan has been already accepted, but they are making sure that the Hamas, which are remnants of Hamas, they also complete. They have a control in West Bank. They are now striking against Hezbollah in Lebanon and also Houthi rebel in Yemen. So the point is, as far as Israel is concerned, it is very clear. They will not allow any militant group to operate in especially area about 500 to 600 kilometers all around Israel, whether it is Sunni militant group or Shia. I think that is the philosophy of Israel. And basically, Syria want a peace with Israel because Ahmed al-Sara want a peaceful resolution because United States is playing a role of mediator because Ahmed al-Sara is under the influence of US now. They have 2-3 meetings, but at the same time, wherever Israel will find that the militant groups are operating in Syria, they will never hesitate to strike again.
Indeed, you've spoken about, the fact that the US has been mediating. In fact, when al-Shara did visit the White House earlier this month, there were a lot of murmurs that were being made that, a strategic deal between Syria and Israel could materialize. That, of course, did not take place. And there were some rather public statements that were also made by al-Shara with regards to Israel. But we do know that back channel negotiations are taking place with the US being involved. In your assessment, when could we see a strategic deal being chalked out in the upcoming months?
It seemingly looks that in a near future, you will find some sort of ceasefire as well as a deal will be signed between Syria and Israel, because this is basically brokered by the US and US is putting a pressure. Because remember that when Assad government was there, that is the time when Syria was totally against Israel, and that is where the weapon used to be smuggled from Iran, Iraq and Syria. Now after Ahmed al-Sara has come, he wants to improve the relationship with Israel, and US also want both Syria and Israel to have negotiation. The back channel diplomacy is already going on. To me, it looks like that in very near future, they will sign some sort of a contract wherein both the sides will understand, but Israel will like to have some sort of a buffer zone between Golan Heights and Syria.
All right, so with that, I'd like to thank you for taking our time and, of course, sharing your analysis with us on NewsX World. On that note, viewers, we're tracking further updates. We're now learning that Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem has welcomed Pope Leo XIV's upcoming visit to Lebanon, announcing that the Iran-backed proxy group will deliver a letter to the pontiff. Qassem has stated that members of Hezbollah's political council would present the letter to the papal embassy and that it will also be made public. The Pope is set to arrive in Lebanon tomorrow for a 3-day visit following his trip to Turkey. His itinerary includes an open-air mass in Beirut, expected to draw 120,000 devotees, and an interreligious meeting in the city center. Qassem has expressed hopes that the Pope's visit will help spread peace in Lebanon and end, as he claims, Israeli aggression and support the oppressed. This visit comes at a critical time as Lebanon continues to face pressure following last year's ceasefire between Hezbollah and Israel. On that note, viewers, it's a wrap on Gulf today. We will continue to track all of these updates very, very closely, but we're dipping into a quick short break. Stay tuned on NewsX.